one of the things that I'm really happy about, aside from obviously having landed a gig with the volunteering and even, in my earlier career when you didn't have that choice to work on whatever you wanted to work on, what I find really helped me a lot was working in different genres, because it really kind of helps you understand all the different ways of looking at a recording, and just the flow, the workflow, right? I mean, the workflow in the studio in working with a country band, for instance, surrounded by session players, because I mean, most country artists, that's kind of how it works. I mean, usually in studio, you've got the artist and session players, hired guns, much like, a lot of the jazz records and things like that as well. And the flow of that particular type of session, versus the rock band or even hip hop guys, is totally totally different. So to be able to actually have those experiences and learn how things go, for me at least, really changed my outlook on the types of projects that I like to work on. Because yes, of course, genre still matters to me, but also just there are days where it's just like I just want to do a project where I know that there aren't going to be any headaches and it's going to go really smoothly. And this is the type of project that I'm in the headspace for right now. And that's, what this particular type of um, immersion in different genres really helped me to be able to understand and see.
I've heard some pretty legendary stories about hip hop recording sessions, like Kanye West, for example, that they would book, you know, they'd have the studio booked from, say, I don't know, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and they'd have it booked for like weeks at a time or months at a time. And, engineers would show up like they're supposed to an hour or two early for the 10 a.m. start. They'd wait around all day. Nobody shows up. The artists or the label's still paying for the studio time.
Yeah.
And then at, 8 p.m., everyone rolls in and then they record for 3 days straight, like no breaks. And it's very, when inspiration hits, they just take it as far as it goes. And a lot of, assistant engineers and engineers quit because they can't handle that crazy schedule. That I've heard, stories of Noel with Drake where people couldn't handle it. And that's where someone like Noel rises up and says, I'll do whatever is necessary. And then he's a part of the crew for, Drake just won the Artist of the Decade award. There's no bigger artist in the world, and especially not as consistently over the last decade. So there is a very big difference between the genres and how they record.
There is. And hip hop is especially difficult. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just, you need the stamina for sure. I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I was on a session, my longest recording session slash mixing session was 36 hours straight. And it was that genre. And it's a slow start usually because the guys, and this is not, knocking anybody. It's not for lack of professionalism. It's just, they get inspired in the studio for the most part, the guys that I've worked with. And they don't usually come in with everything finished, right? They might have a skeleton, or they might have a piece of paper with where they've brainstormed a few ideas or themes out, but the lyrics get written on the spot. And some of those guys, will sit there for a few hours listening to the beat over and over again, looping, and they put it together. But what's crazy is the pro guys, at least that I've worked with, it takes a while for them to write it. But once they've written it, those guys knock it down, and like within 2, 3 takes, like, I mean, they're done. Within an hour, their part is finished.
You hear the legendary stories of like Jay-Z and BIG and Eminem, where in the studio, man, they rattle off an album in a day. They just, when
Yep.
they're in the zone, they're in the zone. And that's why they keep going. It's funny. You said 36 hours. That's my longest poker session.
Oh yeah.
When things are, when the table, what do they call it? Basically, when the table's good and all the conditions are perfect,
Yep.
you can't leave. So I have the equivalent of your in studio I've had at the poker table, which is an overnight, which is kind of fun. The casino, they have no windows anywhere. They have no clocks anywhere. They
Right.
bring in fresh air. They offer free food and drinks, so that you have no concept of time. So
Mhm.
a little bit of nefarious stuff in the background to keep you going until you spend all your money. But
That sounds
anyway,
like a day in the studio.
it sounds like a day in the studio. That's funny.